Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I wanted to do another quick video. I got a request recently from viz.life to do a cartoon style shader for the pumpkin generator, and I thought that would be really interesting, and it's also definitely the right time of year. Now, I hadn't done cell shading before, so I had to do some research on my own, and I also had to make a few tweaks to make it work with the geometry node setup that we had from the previous tutorials. You'll see what I mean later, so let's just get started. Okay, so this is where we left off with the last tutorial. This was actually from the thickness tutorial. If you haven't seen that, don't worry about it. It's not necessary for this tutorial. But I will put a link up here to the original pumpkin generator tutorial, so you can watch that because that is necessary for this. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually jump over to the shading workspace. I'm going to basically get rid of everything. And then we're just going to zoom in here and add in a diffuse BSDF. And just connect that. And then I'm going to add in on slot 2, we're going to add in a new material. And again, delete the principled BSDF. We'll do another diffuse BSDF. Connect that up, and I'm just going to make this pure black. And rename this to outline. And then we can jump back to, before I do, change this to rendered view, and I want to change our render engine to Eevee. Then we're going to jump back to geometry nodes. And from here, we're just going to go all the way to the end of our geometry node setup. Right at the end here, I'm going to take these last two, move them out just to give me some space. And we're going to set up the outline first. So what I want to do, bring this over and connect it to a set position node. And then I'm going to bring in a normal input. And we'll connect that to a vector scale. Connect that to our offset. And then I'm going to bring this down to, say, 0.05. Actually, 0.005. Sorry about that. And we can change this to our rendered output again, and then Alt-Shift-click so we can see what we're doing. And all we've done is just make that a little bit bigger. So I want to set the material on this new geometry to be our outline. Now you can see that's just straight up black, which isn't exactly what we want. Let's bring in a join geometry. Plug that in here, and we can connect our existing geometry over into that join geometry. And then I'm going to add a flip faces node. And the reason for that is we're going to use that and a setting on our material. So when we switch over to our outline material and go down here under settings, you can click backface culling. If you don't see that backface culling setting, you're probably still rendering in cycles, so you just want to go back and switch that to Eevee. And now, since we flipped the faces, now everything on that outline geometry is actually the backface. So if you do backface culling, now everything that you see from the back is getting deleted, and you're just seeing the edge of what's on the other side. So that's actually all we need to do for that outline. I will, Control J, just F2 and rename this outline. And if you want to, you can also bring in a group input and throw that in here so that you can control that line thickness from the outside or from the geometry node settings. So I'll just name this line thickness, and that's everything you really need to create that outline. Okay, now we can switch back over to our shading workspace, and I'm going to give myself a little bit more space to work with. Bring in a shader to RGB node, and then we'll also bring in an RGB to black and white. Now, at this point, I'm going to deviate from a lot of the tutorials that I watched. Most of them were using a color ramp node, to control the color, but I want to maintain control of our shader with this base color output from our geometry nodes. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use a map range, and we're going to change that to step linear. And right away you can kind of see what we're going for. But I want to change the steps down to 2, and I want this max to be 1.7 and our 2 min to be 0.005. That way we have a really dark gray, but it's not quite as dark as the outline. And I want to bring our from max down, and I found like around 0.6 works best for me. And that way you can control how far that shadow comes up with this from min. I think negative 0.1 is fine. Now we need to bring in this base color, so let's bring in attribute node. We'll rename this to base color, and we'll just take this color over to a separate color node, change this to hue, saturation, and value, and then we'll plug that in right away to another combined color node, and also change that to hue, saturation, and value. Now on this value, I actually want to connect that to a multiply node before I connect that in, and then we'll just Control-Shift-Click. So now you can see we've got just that base color, but if I connect this map range to the multiply node, now you can see we've got our color gradient. And I'm going to switch this over to a more generic orange pumpkin. And now you can see that stem really doesn't work. So also from the original pumpkin generator, we had a stem factor node. So I'm going to bring that in, stem factor, and Control-Shift-Click. You can see that's kind of showing up where the stem is. Let's do a math. Let's do a math node, and we'll switch this to greater than, and I'm going to use 0.1. So now that's highlighting the whole stem, and we can take that to a mixed color node. Use that for the factor. We'll take our base color, plug that, I think, to the top. Let's move all of this back a little bit. Plug that into our color there. And then Control-Shift-Click. So then if I take this, I can make this the stem color. So we'll go to a nice saturated green, bring the value down a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. But now if you remember from the original tutorial, we also had a third color that we were using. We were using like a desaturated bluish green color. So we'll set that up, and then you can see it kind of makes that green stem stand out a little too much. So what I actually want to do is control the color of our stem a little bit. So I'm going to copy this mix node, and hover over that, Control-C and Control-V there. I'm going to take this base color and plug it into the second input, and I don't want to mix on that. I want to use that to control just the saturation. And if I plug that in as the stem color to that other mix node, now you can see if we can turn it all the way off, we've got that vibrant saturated green color all the way up, and we've got very desaturated, so it just matches that. So I'm going to bring that down to 0.6. So it's somewhere in the middle. And then you can see if we go back to our original orange color for the pumpkin, we've got that saturation all the way up. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you to Viz.Life for the inspiration on this one. If you have any requests or questions, please drop me a comment and maybe I'll turn it into a video. In other news, things around here are still a little hectic, but I am working on some new videos, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when those videos come out. Otherwise, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.